Picture this. The greatest philosopher in human history awakens not to the marble corridors of Rome, but to the glow of a smartphone screen. The morning light filters through floor-to-ceiling windows of a modern apartment, casting long shadows across hardwood floors. On the nightstand beside him, notifications pulse like digital heartbeats, messages, alerts, the endless hunger of a connected world demanding his attention. Yet Marcus Aurelius does not reach for the device with the desperate urgency of modern man. He pauses, he breathes. He remembers who he is. In our age of infinite scroll and instant gratification, where grown men lose themselves in the dopamine maze of social platforms, Marcus would approach this digital realm with the same discipline that once governed an empire. He would not be conquered by the very tools meant to serve him. Where we see addiction, he would see opportunity. Where we find distraction, he would discover reflection. The same mind that penned the meditations, those private thoughts never meant for publication. Those midnight wrestlings with virtue and vice would find in social media not a prison, but a gymnasium for the soul. Consider how differently he would scroll through his feed. While we frantically swipe past 1,000 fleeting moments, chasing the next hit of novelty, Marcus would move with intention. Each post would be examined not for entertainment but for wisdom. A moment of beauty would remind him of the transient nature of all things. Expression of anger would become a lesson in emotional mastery. Display of vanity would serve as a mirror, reflecting back his own potential for self-deception. He would scroll not to escape reality, but to engage with it more deeply. The validation that destroys lesser men, the desperate hunger for likes, shares, the digital applause of strangers would hold no power over him. Marcus understood a truth that our generation has forgotten. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He would post not because he needed approval, but because he had something true to offer. His social media presence would be like his reign, guided by service, not ego. Every word shared would pass through the filter of his three fundamental questions. Is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? In a world where men perform masculinity? For invisible audiences, where every opinion must be shouted and every thought immediately broadcast, Marcus would embrace the revolutionary act of silence. He would understand that the strongest position is often no position at all, that wisdom frequently speaks in whispers, while foolishness screams. When confronted by the digital mob, when faced with misrepresentation or slander, he would remember his own words, how much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does. He would not feed the trolls, for he would recognize them as what they truly are, suffering souls. Lashing out from their own inner chaos, imagine Marcus encountering the endless debates that rage across platforms like digital wildfires. Political arguments that generate more heat than light. Cultural wars fought with screenshots and sound bites. The temptation to engage, to correct, to defend would be strong, yet he would resist. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. These words, carved in stone 2 millennia ago, would guide his thumb away from the reply button. He would understand that virtue demonstrated speaks louder than virtue proclaimed. That character, revealed through action, carries more weight than character defended through words. The algorithms that enslave, modern minds designed to capture attention, to inflame emotion, to keep us scrolling endlessly through manufactured outrage, would find in Marcus an unmovable object. He would curate his digital diet with the same care a warrior maintains his weapons. Accounts that fed jealousy would be unfollowed. Content that stirred resentment would be blocked. Information that served no constructive purpose would be filtered out. He would remember that the mind, like the body, becomes what it consumes. And he would feed his consciousness only what made it stronger, wiser, more compassionate. In an era where every mundane moment is photographed, every meal documented, every thought immediately transmitted to the world, Marcus would practice the lost art of private experience. He would understand that constantly broadcasting one's life is a form of spiritual poverty, a confession that one cannot find meaning without external witness. His posts would be rare and purposeful, like his words in life. He was one carrying. Each one serving a higher purpose than mere self-promotion. The phenomenon of digital personas, the carefully crafted online selves that often bear little resemblance to reality, would be foreign to his nature. Marcus lived by the principle that authenticity is not a performance but a practice. Post as he lived, honestly, without pretense, unafraid to show both strength and vulnerability. His social media would be an extension of his character, not a mask to hide it behind. When faced with criticism or attack, he would respond as he always did, with philosophical detachment and moral clarity. Whenever you want to cheer yourself up, consider the good qualities of your companions, he wrote. Even in digital spaces filled with hostility, he would look for the humanity in his critics. Understanding that anger often masks pain, that cruelty frequently springs from fear, he would not take personally what was not personal, remembering that other people's opinions of him were ultimately none of his business. The compulsive checking of phones, the phantom vibrations that haunt modern pockets, the anxiety that builds. When separated from devices, these symptoms of digital addiction would find no foothold in his disciplined mind. Marcus would use social media like any other tool, deliberately, purposefully, then set aside when the task was complete. He would not allow the urgent to overwhelm the important, nor would he mistake the noise of notifications for the voice of necessity. In sharing content, he would be guided by the same principles that governed his empire. Does this uplift humanity? Does this spread truth? Does this serve the common good? No. He would not share to signal his virtue, but to practice it. His posts would be like entries in his personal journal, made public honest reflections on the human condition. Practical wisdom for navigating life's challenges, gentle reminders of what truly matters in a world obsessed with what merely seems to matter. The stories he would tell through social media would not be about his achievements or possessions, but about the eternal struggles that define the human experience. The battle between impulse and discipline, the choice between what is easy and what is right, the daily decision to respond to difficulty with grace rather than bitterness. His content would age well because it would be rooted not in the fleeting trends of his time, but in the timeless truths of the human heart. Marcus would use these platforms to practice memento mori, the remembrance of death that gives life its proper perspective. Where others might pose to create an illusion of permanence, he would pose to remind both himself and others of life's beautiful fragility. A sunset would become a meditation on the passing of time. A child's laughter would prompt reflection on innocence and joy. Even mundane moments would be transformed into opportunities for philosophical contemplation. He would not mistake digital connection for real relationship, nor would he allow virtual interactions to substitute for genuine human presence. Technology would serve his relationships, not replace them. His online presence would draw people deeper into authentic community, rather than keeping them satisfied with surface-level engagement. The comparison trap that ensnares so many, the endless measuring of one's life against the highlight reels of others, would have no power over him. Marcus understood that every person fights battles invisible to others, that behind every seemingly perfect life lies struggle, doubt, and pain. He would celebrate others' successes without diminishing his own worth, and he would share his struggles without seeking pity or attention. In a digital landscape where outrage drives engagement and controversy commands attention, Marcus would be revolutionary in his commitment to nuance and thoughtfulness. He would resist the pressure to reduce complex issues to simple sound bites, understanding that wisdom often dwells in the gray spaces between black and white positions. His posts would invite reflection rather than reaction, questions rather than answers, contemplation rather than immediate response. The temptation to use social media as an escape from difficult emotions or challenging circumstances would be foreign to his philosophy. Instead of scrolling to avoid discomfort, he would sit with it, examine it, learn from it. He would understand that every feeling, pleasant or unpleasant, carries information about the state of his soul and the quality of his thinking. Pain would be a teacher, not an enemy to be avoided through digital distraction. Marcus would approach social media with the same systematic thinking he applied to governing Rome. He would have specific times for checking platforms, clear purposes for each session, and defined endpoints for his engagement. The infinite scroll to steal hours from his day, understanding that time, once lost, can never be recovered. Every minute spent mindlessly consuming content would be a minute stolen from more meaningful pursuits. In sharing philosophical insights, he would not position himself as a teacher lecturing from above, but as a fellow student walking the path alongside others. His posts would carry the humility that comes from genuine wisdom, the understanding that the more one learns, the more one realizes how much remains unknown. He would share not his certainties, but his sincere attempts to live according to his highest understanding. The digital mob, with its capacity for instant judgment and viral condemnation, would find in Marcus an unmovable target. He would remember that popularity is not an indicator of truth, that the approval of the crowd is often the enemy of individual integrity. He would speak what needed to be spoken, regardless of its reception, understanding that his duty was to his conscience, not to his audience. As we close our eyes and imagine this greatest of philosopher kings navigating our modern digital age, we see a man unchanged by changing times. The same principles that guided him through plague, war, and political intrigue would serve him equally well through algorithms, notifications, and viral trends. He would master social media as he mastered himself through discipline, wisdom, and unwavering commitment to virtue. The question that remains is not how Marcus would use social media, but whether we possess the courage to follow his example. In a world where digital addiction has become the norm, where the phone in our pocket wields more power over our attention than we do, the path of the philosopher-emperor offers a different way. It offers the possibility of technology serving wisdom rather than undermining it, of social media becoming a tool for growth rather than an instrument of distraction. If Marcus Aurelius had a smartphone today, he would not be enslaved by it. He would not check it compulsively, chase its rewards desperately, or allow its opinions to define his worth. He would use it deliberately, wisely, always remembering that the external world, digital or physical, has only the power over us that we choose to give it. The fortress of the mind remains impregnable to all outside forces if we have the strength to defend it. The choice is ours. We can continue to be victims of our own tools, slaves to the very technologies meant to liberate us, or we can follow the example of a man who understood that true freedom comes not from external circumstances, but from internal mastery. Marcus Aurelius showed us how to be free in chains. Perhaps it is time we learned how to be free in the age of infinite connectivity.